Yo guys, what is going on? Nickname is just Yellow, and today this Norwegian hardcore PC gamer is gonna make a video about the basics. I think it's either part 2 or 3 of Dust 2 right here, so I'm gonna go through a couple of basic concepts for how you should play this kind of side of Dust 2, but keep in mind that I'm trying to make it so that you'll learn some universal things that you can apply to every map as you're playing on CT side, alright? Keep in mind that nowadays, by the way, the economy of CT players is on average per round a little bit more squeezed than what it used to be before, but if you're just conservative with your money, that should be fine. I'm also gonna take for granted that you have now watched all the other videos in this kind of serious thing that I'm doing in terms of actually teaching people how to play the basics of the sides, in which in total it's a very advanced thing, but I'm just trying to cover the basic stuff here for T side and CT side alike. 3 rounds on average, or 3 parts at least on average, so that you people get to understand more of the fundamentals of CSGO, so that you can play it a little bit more smartly and outsmart your enemy, and you know, also outskill them and do smart things, etc. So with that being said, let's get into it. This is CT side. Whenever you play CT side, normally you will be a little bit down on guns overall, I would say, but if you play the guns to their strengths, you should be in a serious kind of good condition regardless. So as you can see right here, I got my USP. It has decent accuracy, way better than the Glock, and the same goes with the P2000, which I don't use just because I enjoy to have the silencer on as my personal preference, okay? But regardless, you can choose which one ever you would like. I mean, one have more bullets, one have less bullets. Same goes for the main assault rifle that you got on this side here, which now is even more expensive than ever. So when you're playing CT side, it's very important to think of the money game, you know? Whenever you kill an enemy, there will be a grenade falling off of his body, the most expensive one he currently have, if he have one. Same goes for your teammates. Not only this, but to try and conserve, being conservative, is that like the right word? You know, like not trying to waste. Conserve your ammo, there we go. Conserving your nades, etc. I'm just screwing up with the words, etc. I'm Norwegian, you know, shit happens. But yeah, like trying to do those kind of things. Yeah, I actually missed that nade, but like these smaller things, for example, hitting the grenade right. Ah, shit, wait. Let's see here. I just want to show you, because it's a very clever trick, okay? You can actually toss the grenade and try and make it explode right there, in which makes a small little, you know, pile of smoke, in which makes it so that you don't really have to waste your smoke grenade instead, which I think is really clever. Like, smaller things like that will allow you to play CT side better. Also, it's in a couple of case scenarios better to only buy the Kevlar, because that way you don't really have to waste that much money, and instead you might rather buy a smoke grenade, in which if you toss that one, you know, alright, if you truly need to do that, in which I missed there completely because I have not played CSGO today. Apparently so. That can allow you to do better, more execution stuffs in order to be able to make it so that you won't get absolutely wrecked when you're playing on CT side. Yeah, a lot of smokes that you can toss out. Oops, that went too far by far. You know, like, just the basic kind of things that will keep the enemy off. Now, what this will do for you is to not only keep out the enemies for a very good amount of time, but it also means that they either have to gamble, in which I would more than not spam the smoke so that the enemies, even if they're trying to like rush or all collect behind and rush, etc., you can just hit them a little bit before it happens. You will here and there see pro players do these kind of things, and it do pay off a lot. Don't waste too many of your bullets though, cause if you do that, now you're sort of screwed when they're coming in, unless you have 5 bullets and you don't miss a single one, which never happens. So already you're pretty much squeezed by resources, but still, if you're just playing things very cleverly, you know, a very light buy that I like to go through, for example, is, let's say that I want to gear up, but I want to gear up in a poor manner. There are 2 ways you can do this, and normally I exclude the kit unless nobody else on my team have it. I like to buy a Kevlar vest, that's 650. Then I either buy a 5.7 pistol, because it's very strong and you can spam it really fast, or you can just slow it down and get accurate with it, which is nice. You can increase this one for more mobility, even though, again, it's not super good. If you want some range power, you can choose the Deagle. Well, I don't recommend that, because you need to be extremely slow when you shoot it to be accurate. Or you can do what I normally do, which is to buy a FAMAS, really sexy. And that will pretty much make it set for you in terms of not only having armament, but you now have a proper gun. So what you decide to do on with the money that you have left, whether or not it's to buy an extra smoke, maybe you can afford a diffuse kit, buy a smoke and 2 flashbangs and a diffuse kit, that's all up to you really. But the thing is that if you conserve your money, you will be able to play this kind of side better. You're defending after all, so your kind of things that you want to focus on is to try and keep the enemies out of sight as effectively as possible with either as few resources or with as many efficient resources as possible, which is why a lot of times people also buy a Molotov on top of everything, because that way you can not only molly the enemy out if they might rush, for example, but then almost after the fire is done, you know, burning, you can actually just extinguish it with a smoke. Almost said a molly. You can't distinguish a molly with a molly, what the hell? Yeah, you get the point, you know, you smoke that off and now suddenly you have a nice smoke carpet. Also, it could be very clever to, as the smoke is done, or a little bit before, you can toss in a nade. You see, damage in this game now has a very nice ability of slowing or stunning enemies, in which it not only goes into account with the guns that you're using when you hit an enemy, regardless of the gun, regardless of what gun they have, but the same goes for the grenade, which means that if you're just using these kind of smaller things in good order and you're expecting the enemy to be here, because let's say, for example, that one of your teammates here on a long here, they were dairy and they actually got all the way out here on close to the palm tree, for example. Now suddenly you have a lot of more information too, because you know that the enemies are not in this entire vicinity, and if there are so and so many alive, they're probably gonna lurk around in other places you haven't looked at yet, you know? Only makes sense. Or they could have penetrated the defense and gone an alternate route that you might have not covered, of course. There's a lot to this cabal of being able to properly get through the defenses and or holding it off. So with that being said, you also need to try and focus on the smaller details. Everything from holding angles to trying to defend as well as possible. Having bullet control or trigger discipline, as you could also call it, that is going to be very important. I mean, just a quick little display of how inaccurate a half-bought gun like this right here in times of terrible money needs. Like, it's very inaccurate, okay? Like, I can't really rely on that kind of accuracy if I really want to tap an enemy all across that kind of field of vision, okay? Look at this right here. You can get lucky, but that is not something that you can truly depend on. I need to shoot super slow in order to be able to even use this gun right here accurately, which is why in a lot of case scenarios, even after the money kind of upgrade thingamabob, I will still go for the night, and the reason is because of how laser beam accurate it is, which means that I can now actually not only out-aim the enemy, but I can hit him, I can hold him off, I can actually kill him, even though again I don't have too many bullets, which yeah, you need to remember those kind of things, by the way. Also, I guess it goes without saying that the enemy, whenever they want to push, they could maybe, you know, smoke off certain kind of different places, in which I obviously missed that smoke right there. Yeah, they can smoke off the stairs right there, for example, making it a little bit harder for the enemy to actually spot you. Can I not buy a flashbang? That's really annoying. Yeah, also they can, you know, toss, let's pretend that this is a flashbang, you know, they can just easily bank out a flashbang and then run with it, turn around, etc. They will use a lot of smaller things in order to try and make you either turn away or blind you so that you can't really see them as you are appearing. Okay, I missed that nade. I tend to miss this nade so often, it's very awkward. Alright, there we go. So what you also need to keep in mind is to not only have a clear vision for where the enemies might come at, but you need to actually practice skills of burst firing as enemies come out, you know, but also turning away in terms of flashbangs are coming. Also, if you're like looking and you see that there are a couple of flashbangs coming out and you are blinded, try and memorize where you're standing so that you can actually play the cover, because when this the flashbang then will fade from your vision in terms of what you can actually see, now you can actually retaliate, and you might be able to take a couple enemies with you. Also keep in mind that depending on where you're playing, it will be easier or harder to take the places, alright? So A here, for example, depending on where the enemy will plant and where you are, it can be more difficult or easier to retake the site. So planning ahead in these kind of manners of, you know, whether or not you want to rotate all the way around here from either middle, you know, you can just line it up right there and jump up here. Like, either you can go directly to short or you can go all the way around here to long. these will give you different advantages, and one of them is, for example, that if you go long, you can easily face this guy right here, but if there are 2 enemies left, you still need to face this guy randomly around here somewhere, in which he could be anywhere, so it's really annoying for you doing those kind of things, right? Because you don't really have the information if it's 1v2, for example. But still, just having as much information as possible as a CT side player, that can make it so much tighter and better for you as a player in order to be able to beat the enemy team. And those are like one of the smaller things that you also need to focus on, because it do matter in the longer run. And even if you are very unskilled as a CT player, you can still make the most out of your skill if you're playing to your strength, and also if you're playing by the right decisions, depending on what is going down. So yeah, where do we really go on from here on out? I don't think there's too much more to say other than that the best thing that you can do is to practice the maps that you prefer to play the most. You should practice them in regular deathmatch or 128 community server deathmatch, which I obviously do prefer. Play the map a lot, just try and practice guns, try and practice gunfights, and seriously, spend a couple of hours here and there every day. You will be able to increase your level even if your gear is subpar. You'll learn more about gunfights, when to do what, when to rotate, when to call stuff, what calls will be correct, etc. And you'll also obviously need to try and learn a little bit about the grenades, how to work your money in terms of what is going down at which round whenever you're playing as CT. Sometimes maybe a couple of you are going for a little rush buy, then you gotta compensate with something that might, you know, work out in terms of whatever the hell you want to do. In other cases, you might actually go for a little risky play right here, and you might just line that smoke up right there, and you can just jump across, and now suddenly you are a serious threat. But not only that, there's a serious nice gamble that you can go for down in the tunnel right here with a max 7, killing a couple of people. Like, sky's the limit for what you can do and what will or will not be reasonable depending on what the enemies can do and how they play. But if you just study all that, and if you just practice the game's basics, and if you play matchmaking a decent amount, but also take into account what is actually going on, learn from it if it fucks up, and play along, you know, and have fun with the game, you'll be able to elevate your CT level maybe more than your T level, depending on, you know, how skilled you are. So hopefully people got something out of this video. Regardless, I don't think I'm done with these kind of videos at all. So with that being said, I need to make more, okay? Regardless, yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I would thoroughly recommend to support the YouTube channel, and maybe subscribe if you have not already. Here we got long videos, short videos, educational videos, and stuff that will help your PC regardless of what game you decide to play. Also, if you want to support the YouTube channel and everybody else who enjoy this channel, you should check out the description if you have not already. There we got rewards, and yeah, if you got suggestions, I'm free to take those, because I don't think the Patreon page is up to date still. I think there could be adjustments made, and recommendations I would love. Alright, so thanks for watching. Nickname is Yellow. Have a nice day, and don't get beastified when you play.